Chapter 1076. Striking lands 5. Su Ming swung 2 fingers before him, and a golden light immediately appeared. During that instant, ripples spread through the area, as if some laws had been changed. This scene landed in the man in golden armor's eyes, and his eyes sparkled. A smile appeared at the corner of his lips. He nodded and closed his eyes. It only lasted for the span of 2 breaths, but when he opened his eyes again, a power that had never appeared before on him while he was in the 3rd striking lands erupted from his body. This power had clearly been sealed before, because when it burst forth, semi-transparent talismans started flashing rapidly at the center of his brows and chest, as if they were suppressing the release of his power. Is this all that I can manage? The man in golden armor sighed softly and mumbled to himself. When he lifted his head, his eyes had already turned gold. A presence which belonged to those in Fate Realm spread out from him. Oh well, even if this is all that I can muster, it is what can be considered to be my full power now. I can bring out the God Slayer art in its complete form. Dao Kong, the name of this sword style is God Slayer. Observe well. The instant the man in golden armor said those words, he gripped the golden sword with his right hand, then moved his left to the handle as well. With both hands holding onto the sword, he lifted it, and during that instant, a low roar came from his mouth. Then with the presence of wanting to cut apart the world, he charged towards Su Ming. The will to fight burned brightly in Su Ming's eyes. As he laughed towards the sky, the golden light in his right hand reached a piercing degree. He raised his left hand and held his right wrist, and with the same movement as that of the man, he took a step forward, then cut down at the man in golden armor, stirring up a loud bang. Those outside the platform only saw 2 rays of golden light intersecting, 2 golden waves of sword aura crashing against each other, and heard a loud, astonishing bang that instantly made their ears ring. Their minds went blank. With a loud bang, the sword Su Ming had formed with 2 of his fingers had cut apart space. It cut down all laws of fate and slashed apart the man in golden armor's fate, while the golden sword cut down Su Ming's connection with the world. This was the first wave of contact once the 2 of them began fighting against each other at full force. It was a battle of 2 people cutting down fate. Then 2 types of transformed laws appeared behind Su Ming and the man in golden armor. They had been stirred up by the swords which brought chaos to a dimension by moving the target under their swings. It was the 2nd wave of contact. Then, under a loud bang that surged into the sky, the 3rd wave of contact, the rebound, erupted. Su Ming trembled violently, and in the midst of the loud bangs, he was flung out of the platform to land in the sky in the area outside. When he coughed up blood, the man in the golden armor also staggered backwards until he was at the edge where an invisible screen of light stopped him. It bounced him back, and he coughed up another mouthful of blood. You won. Remember its name, God Slayer art. The man in golden armor smiled as he looked at Su Ming. As he spoke, he picked up the sword and swung it. Immediately, a name written in flourish appeared at the top of the pillar of light surrounded by multiple dragon-like beasts, as if it had been carved there by a sword. Dao Kong. At the instant the name showed up, the light on the pillar of light instantly stretched to 100,000 feet. The dragon-like beasts around it immediately roared. With a smile on his face, the man in golden armor gradually disappeared from the platform. Su Ming stood in midair and wiped off the blood at the corners of his mouth. He lowered his head to stare at his right hand. Gradually, a hint of excitement and elation appeared in his eyes. He had not accepted that clearing the striking lands would allow him to get this sort of serendipity. This God Slayer art might only be comprised of a single slash, but that one slash was enough to shock all people. It was a peerless strike that could bring forth incredible destructive power. In fact, based on what Su Ming could feel, that art could compare to Mountain Shifter art. With it and the Mountain Shifter art, Su Ming was confident he could win against even stronger opponents. When the man in golden armor disappeared from the platform, the 10 million cultivators in the area fell into a state of dead silence. They had witnessed the entire process, and soon, a shocking boom erupted from them. The buzzing of voices spread through the crowd, revealing their shock as well as envy, and it continued boiling around them. It's only been a few moments. Only a small part of the 2 hours has passed, and he has already managed to clear 3 striking lands. Even dynasts Dao Lin and Dao Fa could not do this. No wonder they said that dynast Dao Kong had been able to kill more than 1,000 challengers previously. By the looks of it, these people had simply been reckless. Say, do you think he'll go to the fourth striking lands? As the crowd discussed among themselves, the dynasts were silent. Even Dao Lin and Dao Fa stood with narrowed eyes. They stared at Su Ming standing in midair, and a pressure they had never felt before rose in their hearts upon him clearing the third striking lands. In the spot at the center of the 9 continents in the first plane was the old man in Life Realm. As he waited on the lotus platform, his expression had also changed. Let's go have a look. Looks like we've underestimated this dynast Dao Kong, but I'm also curious. How could a person's level of cultivation change so much in only the span of little more than 1,000 years? Sect Master Bei Bang, you do not need to be curious. I will give you the answer in a few days' time, the tanned old man behind him said with a smile, but his heart was already filled with shock. He knew deep down about how strong Xianxia of the third striking lands was, and because he did, he was more shocked by Su Ming's actions than many others. The 2 sect masters by his side felt the same, but not a single hint of it showed on their faces. When they heard Bei Bang's words, they nodded in agreement. The 4 of them turned into long arcs that rushed towards the fourth striking lands. Clearly, in their eyes, Su Ming was definitely going to go there. Su Ming lifted his head when he was in the air near the third striking lands. His eyes sparkled, and he cast a glance at the people around the area. He then moved, but he did not go to the fourth striking lands. Instead, he charged towards the rockslide wastelands, which was the first striking lands he had cleared. While the crowd was stupefied, Su Ming moved with a speed so fast that he cut through the air. Once he closed in on the first striking lands, he stepped into the area. After a moment, when booming sounds rose into the air, he walked out, and there was surprised delight on his face. He moved again then. This time, he flew towards the second striking lands, the stage of illusions whose memories had been altered. It only lasted for about a couple dozen breaths before he flew out and threw his head back to laugh long and hard at the sky. Striking lands. What a place. Rockslide art, star illusion art, and this Godslayer art. Every single striking lands has a divine ability hidden within it. Su Ming's eyes sparkled, and he charged towards the fourth striking lands. As Su Ming closed in on the fourth striking lands, around a dozen people from the 999 continents in the third plane, and the 99 continents in the second plane within Morning Dao sect opened their eyes in their isolation grounds. Brilliant light shone in their gazes. Among those people were the 8 who had cleared the third striking lands. There were also some who were too old to enter the sect master chamber. Instead, they were powerful warriors of Morning Dao sect scattered in the land and training on their own. As they opened their eyes, waves of divine sense spread out from them and rushed to the 9 continents in the first plane. Clearly, someone had informed them about what was happening, and Su Ming's actions had attracted their attention. They wanted to go and have a look at what was going on. If those from 10,000 years ago were not mentioned, then during the period of the past 10,000 years only one person had managed to clear all 9 stages of the fourth striking lands in one go. There were 7 others who had made it up to the other stages, but had not cleared all 9 at once. There were 8 people in total, and these 8 were the people who had cleared the third striking lands. Nadir Grotto was the fourth striking lands, and it was a name etched into the minds of all disciples of Morning Dao sect. Extreme darkness was a type of light that was said to have been formed by some unknown reason countless years ago to the north of true Morning Dao world. Later on, that light was taken away by Morning Dao sect to build the fourth striking lands. There was a legend in Morning Dao sect that only those who were in Mastery Realm could have the right to clear the fourth striking lands. If anyone went to challenge it recklessly, their soul would be injured by that light of extreme darkness. That was why, unless they were absolute confident, no one would come challenge that land. When the 10 million cultivators in the area saw Su Ming rushing to the fourth striking lands, they immediately became excited, and stirring up loud whistles. The crowd turned into long arcs and followed after him. The world shuddered at that moment. As Su Ming charged forward, he could see a gigantic pillar of light at the center of the fourth striking lands, which was located far into the distance. The dragon-like beasts around the pillar of light were breathing out gusts of freezing air as they sat around it. Just looking at it would cause a freezing chill to creep up into people's hearts. However, Su Ming had decided to leave his mark in Morning Dao sect with this, to not keep a low profile. With that determination, He was so fast that he instantly closed in on the fourth continent, and when he was right beyond the striking land, he came to a stop, then cast a cold glance at it. He might have decided to challenge that land and didn't mind being ostentatious, but he would still be smart about it. Because of that, his gaze landed on the 8 names on the pillar of light. After a moment, cultivators arrived beside Su Ming in succession. Bei Bang and the other 3 sect masters had arrived a long time ago. At that moment, they too kept silent and only stood by the side to observe. Only when the dozen-something divine senses from the second and third place descended did Bei Bang turn his head around to cast a sideways glance in their direction. His expression remained calm while the tanned old man behind him had a cold sneer on his lips. Gradually, more people arrived, and discussions began once more. Does Dynast Dao Kong intend to continue challenging striking lands? I reckon he's scared and doesn't have the confidence to do so, else why would he be so hesitant? He's worried that he won't be able to clear it. I don't think so. Look at how Dynast Dao Kong cleared the first 3 striking lands in succession and placing first in all of them. This is enough to show how strong he is. You might not know this yet, but Dao Fei Xian was also killed by Dynast Dao Kong earlier. As the sounds of people talking among themselves rose into the air, time slowly passed. A quarter of an hour later, Su Ming's eyes swiftly focused. He took a swift step forward, and at the instant the area around him fell silent, he stepped into the 4th striking land. Chapter 1077 Striking Lands 6 Su Ming's movement immediately caused the area to fall into instant silence. All gazes were gathered on him and followed him as he entered the platform, but he did not pay any attention to being the center of attention of 10 million cultivators. What he wanted to do was to let all those people see how he would amaze them. He wanted to be arrogant, to intimidate all of them. When Su Ming was in the barren lands of divine essence, he had risen to power from being weak. So when he returned to true morning Tao world, there was no way he would allow himself to continue to be humiliated like he was in the past. Before, Su Ming had been observing the 4th striking lands. While scrutinizing it, he found some vague clues. When he moved forward and stepped onto the platform, he immediately sensed a freezing chill that was completely different from the area outside. That chill did not spread out from the air, and neither did it come from the platform beneath his feet. Instead, it was created by the laws of that land. It was as if the laws had made it so that the place had to be cold, and hence, it was compulsory for the place to be cold. Challenger, who are you? A cold and indifferent voice asked from the gigantic pillar of light. The next moment, ripples appeared near the platform which was surrounded by the dragon-like beasts, and a vague existence with black wings came to being. It was dressed in a black robe. Its eyes were closed and it looked like it was sealed in the pillar of light. That man was precisely the one who had changed the laws in the land and was the source of all the chill in the land. Dao Kong, Su Ming answered faintly. There are 2 paths in Nadir Grotto. One of them is where those who fail will definitely not die. If you pass through all 9 stages, you will be considered to have cleared this striking land. The second path is where you will certainly die if you fail. You will also clear this striking land if you clear all 9 stages there. Tell me your choice. The freezing voice was loud, but those in the area outside could not hear it. What's the difference? Su Ming asked in a languid manner while frowning. The difference is whether you want to die or live. There was a mighty pressure in the icy cold voice, bringing with it an air of those who regarded themselves superior to all others. The words might have been cold, and the arrogance exuding by their speaker was incredibly clear. When Su Ming heard his speech, a brilliant light shone in his eyes, and he started laughing. I choose the second path, he said faintly. The figure which seemed to be sealed in the pillar of light opened its eyes swiftly. At the instant a brilliant light shone in them, all the dragon-like beasts surrounding that pillar of light roared together and descended. Dark light shone on them before they swiftly fused together to form one single figure. That figure had a body covered in black feathers and had a pair of wings like those of a bat. Red light shone in his eyes, and he looked exactly like the figure sealed in the pillar of light. With each 3 breaths, you will be considered to have cleared a stage. If you last for more than 30 breaths, you will have cleared the 4th striking lands. In the 10,000 years since the rankings were reset, only one person has cleared the 4th striking lands, and he chose the first path. Red light shone in the eyes of the person with black feathers, and there was a ghastly chill to his voice. As he spoke, he moved forward, and a piercing black light erupted from his body. That black light seemed to be able to devour all sources of light. At the instant it appeared, it caused Su Ming to feel as if he had been stabbed by countless needles. In fact, it was difficult for him to even open his eyes due to the piercing light. Wisps of freezing air also spread out from it and seeped into all of his pores as if it wanted to manifest into ice on his skin. With a loud bang, Su Ming fell backwards and staggered a few steps. When he lifted his head, a loud whooshing sound reached his ears. What he saw was a layer of black light. Immediately, the feeling as if his whole body was suffering from sharp stabs of pain, ice was on his skin, and the sensation of growing heavier rose within him once again. The booming sounds rose again. Su Ming moved back until he was forced to the edge of the platform. When he coughed up a mouthful of black blood, the cold voice spoke again. 3 breaths, you passed the first stage. Su Ming lifted his head, and during that instant, the black light let out a whooshing sound again as it erupted from the person with black feathers. The black light looked as if it covered the sky and the whole world, causing everything that Su Ming could see to be replaced by it. He found it difficult to even move. His body felt as if there were 10,000 needles pierced into it. In fact, even breathing was painful. The moment he exhaled, cracking sounds could be heard, as if ice had formed on his face. When the people outside the platform saw it, looks of pity immediately appeared on their faces. There were also those who delighted in Su Ming's misfortune. As discussions echoed in the air, Bei Bang shook his head. The 3 sect masters behind him did not say anything, but the tanned old man was smiling coldly. The dozen-something divine senses were starting to show signs of getting ready to scatter away. He will only be able to last for at most 4 stages, then he will definitely fail. That's right, by the looks of it, 4 stages will be his limit. This light of extreme darkness is known as one of the 5-colored divine lights. It might not be complete, but it's definitely not something that a normal person can withstand. I thought another Dao Xianxia would appear. This Dao Kong might have quite the grand presence, but he is only worth this much when a real challenge presents itself. Ha ha, Dao Xianxia is known as the strongest person among all generations over the last 10,000 years in Morning Dao sect. If it was not because he gave up on being a dynast of his own accord and focused on his training, there is no way he would not be one of the dynasts. As the dozen-something divine senses spoke among themselves and were about to disperse, their conversation stopped abruptly. The signs of dispersing were also immediately gone. All of the divine senses focused on the platform at once. They were not the only ones. At that moment, the discussions among the 10 million people in the area also fell instantly silent. All their gazes landed on the platform, and even Bei Bang and the other 3 looked over. When Su Ming saw that the world had turned black on the platform, a cold sneer appeared on his lips. It might be difficult for him to move his body, and the ice over his body might also seem to have sealed his cultivation base, but he could still speak. That's all. Rock slide art. The instant Su Ming's words tumbled out of his lips, booming sounds sliced through the air. Gigantic meteors appeared out of nowhere in the air above him. They were traveling so fast that when Su Ming finished speaking, they had already descended on the platform. Loud booms shook the sky and earth. The sound of the dozens of gigantic meteors crashing against the platform shook the ground. In fact, it caused even the 4th continent to tremble. As the meteors landed, the black light in front of Su Ming distorted. A voice tinted with shock came from the darkness before him. Rock slide art. You actually learned that art. As the stones fell and booming sounds rose, Su Ming wiped away the blood at the corners of his lips, then cast a cold glance at the person with black feathers. A strange and enchanting light gradually appeared on his face, and a crimson shade tainted his hair. He licked his lips, and blood veins appeared in the whites of his eyes. As they intersected with each other, red light shone from them. I choose the 3rd path. Su Ming's voice had become hoarse. After speaking, he took a swift step forward. When he lifted his right hand, he struck the center of his brows. Immediately, he disappeared from the line of sight of the person with black feathers and turned into a huge planet. That planet moved and became a blood-red heart. As it started beating with loud thumps, the expression of the person with black feathers changed, and black light immediately appeared around his body. It swept out in all directions to fight against the signs of collapse that were stirred up by the beating of the heart. "Star illusion art," a low voice said. During that moment, a crack formed at the center of the blood-red heart, instantly causing the person with black feathers to feel as if his soul was about to be devoured. It lasted for only the span of a few breaths before that person with black feathers let out a loud bang, and his body crumbled to pieces. Black threads from its soul was devoured by the blood-red heart before it shone with a red light and turned back into Su Ming. His hair had turned completely red. Crimson light shone in his eyes, and there was an indescribable malice and strangeness within them, along with madness. As Su Ming laughed madly, he took a step forward without any hesitation. He charged towards the pillar of light where the real body of the person with black feathers resided. There was a glint in his eyes that shone with surprise, but there was still a cold sneer on his lips. However, at that moment, Su Ming seized the air with his right hand, and the life inequity spear appeared in his hand. Once he held it and leaped up, golden light expanded to an area of 100,000 feet. With a loud bang, the tip of Su Ming's life inequity spear crashed into the pillar of light. At the same time, the power of cutting fate spread out. The ripples formed by it crashed against the pillar. Some of them shot inside, and in it was the power that assured absolute accuracy of Su Ming's God-Slayer art. It ignored the pillar of light and sent forth the second wave of attack at the person with black feathers. Booming sounds rose again, and the third attack from God-Slayer art, the rebound, also shot out, causing the pillar of light to let out a buzz. As countless tremors shook it, even the expression of the person with black feathers changed. Rockslide art, Star illusion art, God-Slayer art. You actually learned all of them. And Mountain Shifter. A red light shone in Su Ming's eyes. He lifted his left hand and formed a seal before he pointed into the distance. Immediately, the fourth continent trembled. The tremors then surpassed all that the fourth continent had experienced previously. Under the shocked and flabbergasted expressions of the 10 million people outside, a mountain in the distance trembled and lifted off the ground. But no one would not have been shocked if only one was affected. As the sounds of people sucking in sharp breaths echoed in the air, the many mountains of the fourth continent all rose into the air one after another. The ground let out shocking booms, and nearly 1,000 mountains appeared in the sky, forming countless inverted images. When this scene was witnessed by the crowd, it was enough for the hearts of all people to tremble and the dozen-something divine senses to be shocked. Even the pupils of Bei Bang constricted, for he could feel the terrifying power residing in those mountains. Chapter 1078 Striking Lands 7 The expressions of all 10 million cultivators in the area changed drastically. When they looked towards the sky, their gazes were filled with great fear. They could clearly sense the might and pressure coming from the force of the mountains. It was a power that could make the entire continent tremble. Among all of Su Ming's divine abilities, this could be considered his strongest art before he had learned God-Slayer art, and when not counting his inborn abilities. He had learned it in the 5th kill, and it came from Mountain Shifter Expanse Cosmos, a world that did not belong to Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos. It was the strongest art in Mountain Shifter Expanse Cosmos, and its might was naturally difficult to measure. Su Ming had only activated 1,000th of its true might. After all, he could not bring out its true power with his current level of cultivation, but even so, he already brought forth a power that could threaten even almighties in Fate Realm. As the 10 million cultivators' expressions changed, the tanned old man sucked in a breath. Even the pupils of Bei Bang, the almighty in Life Realm, shrank. There was a solemn expression on his face that had never been seen before. If the onlookers were already reacting in such a way, then the person with the black feathers in the pillar of light who was at the center of that mighty pressure could sense it even better. His eyes sparkled. Immediately, black light burst from his body with a loud whooshing sound. When it surged into the air, the color of the pillar instantly turned completely black. At the same time, the black light spread out, and in the blink of an eye, the platform turned completely dark in the eyes of the 10 million cultivators in the area. Even if they were just looking at it, they felt sharp stabs of pain in their eyes. A chilling wave surged up their bodies, as if their organs had been frozen over. In fact, their limbs also became stiff under that light, and they felt as if they had lost their power and become mortal, but their cultivation bases still remained in their bodies. The light of extreme darkness was one of the 5 colored divine lights. Its power was so great that the expressions of all people who spoke of it would change when it resided in the northernmost region in true morning Dao world many years ago. The instant the black light appeared and sharp pain assaulted Su Ming's body, causing him to feel stiff, the mountains in the sky rushed down to the ground. The shadows of the mountains not only enveloped the platform, but even all the cultivators in the area. As the mountains came down, their shadow continued growing bigger, and to the cultivators in the area, it looked like Su Ming and the person with black feathers had attacked at the same time. One of them froze the other's body, and the other sent down destruction from the sky. Bei Bang's expression changed drastically. He was also the only one who had his mobility under the light of extreme darkness. He swung his arm up to form a seal. At the same time, he let out a low shout. Morning Dao seal. Booming sounds immediately surged up, and the 10 million cultivators in the area shuddered. The sharp stabs of pain and stiffness instantly disappeared. At that moment, there was only one thought in their minds: retreat swiftly. In an instant, the 10 million cultivators tumbled backwards like a tidal wave. After withdrawing to a spot far, far away, they could still hear the loud booms. The ground trembled, and the mountains crashed into the pillar of light on the platform. In the mid of the booming sounds, the mountains struck down, and the black light spreading out from the pillar of light flashed. Whooshing sounds mixed with the booms. Each time they echoed together, a mountain would crumble. As the light of extreme darkness and the mountains fought against each other, Su Ming endured the sharp pain in his body and rushed forward swiftly. But just as he was about to thrust the spear in his hand into the pillar of light again, the bald crane suddenly screeched in his mind. It's mine! It's mine! Darn it all, this is mine! This light is mine! It's mine! What's going on? I seem to have remembered something. Darn it all, I can't remember it. But I know that black light is mine. I should have a light with 5 colors, and when they're all together, I could overpower all the immortals' Daos in the universe. There was an excitement and madness that had never appeared before in the bald crane's piercing voice. When it echoed in Su Ming's mind, he froze for a moment, and the crimson shade in his hair faded away to return to normal. This was not Su Ming recovering on his own, but the bald crane's screech containing a power that could shock hearts. It forcefully turned Su Ming back from his destruction-inducing state. As the bald crane screamed, the mountains fell, and the black light was defeated. At that moment, the bald crane flew out on its own from Su Ming's storage bag. With bloodshot eyes, it gritted its teeth and rushed to the pillar of light recklessly. It's mine! You damn thief, that light is mine! In Su Ming's memories, the bald crane had never been in such a frenzy before. Even when it was in the 5th kill and was stimulated to seek new heights, it had not reacted in such a way. It did not have many feathers, but it had a few downy ones. At that moment, they all stood up. With bloodshot eyes flashing in madness, the bald crane's twisted expression seemed to scream that the person with black feathers had stolen all of its crystals. Just watch me, your grandpa crane is going to teach you a lesson. You damn thief, you stole my black light while I wasn't paying attention. This light is mine! The bald crane screeched and swiftly closed in on the pillar. That black light swept out, and sharp stabs of pain immediately spread through Su Ming's body, but the bald crane was completely unharmed. Not only did it not stop, it even became faster. With a bang, it crashed against the pillar of light, and its gaze met that of the person with black feathers. When they looked into each other's eyes, the person with black feathers was first stunned, then his expression changed drastically, in a manner that had never happened for him before. He shuddered, as if he was about to move back, but he was sealed in the pillar of light and could not withdraw. He then immediately let out a shrill scream. It's you! Damn it! You're not dead! How could you not be dead? Why can't you just die? Black light spread out in an intense manner from the person with black feathers, causing Su Ming to be unable to get closer to it. He staggered backwards, and a loud booming sound reverberated in the air. The mountains continued descending without stop. Each time one crumbled, the black light would become dimmer, and it would also make the person with black feathers in the pillar shudder. But no matter how he shuddered, he did not tremble as badly as when he saw the bald crane. "You're mine. And the light is also mine. This damn light, this cute light, it sealed you. Darn it all, this light is far too adorable." The bald crane was already rambling incoherently. With a loud shout, half of its body seeped through the pillar, and it entered it. Su Ming had known since a long time ago that the bald crane was immune to all seals. When he saw it again, a sparkle shone in his eyes. He moved back upon another flash of the black light and swung his arm. Immediately, mountains surrounded the area. As booming sounds rose up while the mountains crumbled in their fight against the black light, the shattered stones turned into powder. It stirred up a windstorm and blocked the gazes from the world outside. All of that could not be seen by those in the area beyond. The existence of the black light blocked off their vision, and it was the same for the voices. No one in the area outside could hear anything. Besides, the 10 million cultivators in the area as well as Beibang had already retreated into the distance. The storm of powder due to the collapse of Su Ming's mountains only accentuated everyone's inability to see clearly. Because of that, only Su Ming, the person with black feathers, and the bald crane knew what was going on inside. When the bald crane pushed half of its body through the pillar of light, the person with black feathers screamed shrilly, as if he was extremely terrified and wanted to flee, but he could not leave the area of the seal. His screams were tinted with despair. "Don't worry, Popper. Come to Grandpa Crane's bosom and let me embrace you tightly." The bald crane's expression was distorted. Its voice also became strange. As it used all of its strength to crawl into the pillar of light, it kept on speaking to the trembling and struggling person with black feathers. Its words made even Su Ming's skin crawl when he heard them. As for the person with black feathers, he felt it even more. As he screamed, he struggled, but it did not make any difference. He could only watch the bald crane continue crawling in with all its strength. By then, most of its body had already entered the pillar of light. "Come here, baby, you're mine. Ha ha, this light is mine. I remember now. Darn it all, even you are mine. Could it be that I'm your father and you're my son?" Clearly, once this question appeared in the bald crane's head, it caused it a great deal of confusion. It scratched its head before twisting its body with great strength and completely crawling into the pillar. Then, while laughing and licking its lips, its eyes bloodshot, it even started to mumble in a deranged manner. "Son, your pops is here now. Don't be scared, I'll be very gentle. Nah, Grandpa Crane sounds better. Let's do over. You don't have to be anxious." The bald crane's body trembled while it laughed in a piercing voice, then even took a few steps back. "Baby, your Grandpa Crane is here. You don't have to be scared anymore." The bald crane's voice was immediately replaced by the person with black feathers' loud screams. At the instant it rose up, the bald crane pounced on him like a malicious dog on food, then wrapped its wings around him. At the instant their bodies touched each other, the person with black feathers shuddered intensely. A vortex appeared at the center of his brows, and during that instant, a black feather appeared from between his brows while he shivered. Once it disappeared into the center of the bald crane's brows, the person with black feathers went limp. Its body turned into a ray of black light that spread outwards before disappearing without a trace. Disappearing along with him was the bald crane, who seemed to have regained its senses and swiftly fled back into Su Ming's storage bag. "I'm going to be rich. Little boy Su, darn it all, I'm going to be rich. How many crystals do you reckon this feather will sell for? Do you think I'll be able to get 100 for it? Can you use that light of extreme darkness?" Su Ming suddenly asked. "Of course. It feels as if it belongs to me. Strange, it feels as if it has always belonged to me," the bald crane murmured under its breath. Su Ming's lips curled up into a smile. He raised his right hand and swung it. Immediately, the storm and the whirlwind around the area dissipated. Besides the many mountains which had been turned to powdered stone, the others tumbled backwards to return to their original spots. The black light on the platform had already disappeared. When everything returned to normal, Su Ming turned around and looked towards the crowd beyond the platform. He saw astonished gazes along with expressions filled with disbelief. He did not even need to turn his head around to know that what caused the people to be in shock was because the person with black feathers who had existed for an unknown number of years in the Pillar of Light in Morning Dao sect had vanished without a trace. Chapter 1079. His name is Sang. He's gone. After a long while, when Su Ming walked off the platform, the crowd registered what had happened. Then, an uproar that seemed to surge into the sky rose among them. This is, what happened? Why is the person with black feathers who has always existed in the Pillar of Light gone? Can Dynasty Dao Kong be considered to have cleared the 4th striking lands? Nonsense. The person guarding the land is gone, so you tell me whether Dynasty Dao Kong cleared the stage. Just what level of cultivation does he possess? How can this be? Could the garrison have been killed? This isn't the main point. The point is, the garrison of the 4th striking lands has disappeared. How are we going to challenge this striking lands in the future? This might be something that has never happened in Morning Dao sect. The sounds of discussion had never been so strong. Even when Su Ming had cleared the previous 3 striking lands, the voices had not come close to such loudness. The dynasts in the area, including Dao Lin and Dao Fa, held great shock and astonishment in their eyes as they looked towards Su Ming. In fact, there was already an indescribable wariness and fear in the depths of their hearts. On the other hand, the dozen-something divine senses who had descended had swiftly dissipated while keeping their silence. However, the instant they did so, a dozen-something spots from the 99 continents in the 2nd plane and the 999 continents in the 3rd plane let out booming sounds. A figure shot out from each of them, and after most of them raised their heads to stare at the 9 continents in the 1st plane, they took a step to change upwards. They knew that something major had happened. The garrison of the 4th striking lands had disappeared. This was something unprecedented and would surely stir up a huge storm. If they were late, Dynasty Dao Kong might manage to die, and they would lose their chance to challenge him. Besides them, old Bei Bang standing at the edge of the group of cultivators on the 4th continent had a dark expression on his face. He stared at the empty Pillar of Light, then at Su Ming. He did not say anything though and remained silent. He could only be considered as one of the core members in Morning Dao sect, but not the top one, since there were quite a few people whose ranks were above his. Those people had to have learned of what happened, and would probably come soon. The 3 sect masters behind Bei Bang were stunned, especially that tanned old man. He had even sucked in a sharp breath, and for the first time ever, wariness appeared in his gaze as he stared at Su Ming. The moment Su Ming walked off the platform and stepped into the air, wind stirred and clouds began to surge. Thunder roared, and a gigantic vortex formed. As it spun and roared, 3 wills descended from within it with a bang. The moment they did so, the hearts of the cultivators in the area immediately trembled. Even Bei Bang shuddered and lowered his head before wrapping his fist in his palm and bowing to the sky. As he did this, the 3 sect masters behind him immediately wrapped their fists in their palms and bowed respectfully as well. The 10 million cultivators around him also worshipped those 3 wills together. Su Ming, who stood in midair, raised his head to look at the vortex. His eyes shone. He decided not to act too arrogantly in this matter and lowered his head before bowing as well. Dao Kong. The instant Su Ming bowed, a buzzing sound came out with a bang from the vortex in the sky like a god. A voice spread to all 4 planes like tumbling waves and reached more than 10 million continents. What have you done to the existence of extreme darkness guarding this land? Why has the presence of his vitality disappeared? The buzzing spread out again. There was a freezing chill contained in it, and it immediately caused all the living beings in the world to feel as if their hearts had withered and their lives would end if the speaker so much as gave the command. Death realm. There were naturally those who had great knowledge of things in the world. At that moment, in shock, they lowered their heads even further. Each disciple in Morning Dao sect knew that Morning Dao sect had accumulated its strength over countless years, and it was fathomless. I don't know, Su Ming said flatly while shaking his head. He remained composed, and not a single change could be detected on him. He might be in Morning Dao sect, but it did not matter to him. More than 1,000 years ago, Dao Kong had stepped into the barren lands of divine essence. The Almighties in true morning Tao world fending against the barren lands of divine essence had mentioned that they only listened to progenitor Tao Chen. When he stepped into morning Tao sect, the blood-soul fusion test had given him the golden bloodline. If Su Ming still did not understand what was going on, then he would have lived his life in vain. Was there anything in morning Tao sect that he should be afraid of? When Su Ming delivered his answer, the three wills in the vortex did not immediately speak, but the increasingly oppressive mighty pressure seemed to continuously gather around them in that silence. It made the 10 million cultivators in the land to immediately begin trembling. Cancel Dao Kong's right to be a dynast. After some time, the buzzing sound came from the vortex again. At the instant that voice spoke, another one filled with an imposing tone reverberated in the air as well. Cancel his right to be a direct descendant. Excluding those who are sect masters, all those who share the same blood as him will be demoted to being members of a branch family. Banish him to Tao Ocean. Suppress him there until he voices his secrets. If he does not answer in 10,000 years, then he shall sink into Tao Ocean until the universe is destroyed. The three buzzing voices spoke one after another. The mighty pressure contained in them made it sound as if they could decide the fate of all lives as well as the direction the world should head towards with just their words. This punishment will be effective immediately. As the words left the vortex, a gigantic palm stretched out and charged towards Su Ming with loud booming sounds. A brilliant light shone in Su Ming's eyes. He lifted his head to stare at the incoming palm without any change in his expression. He was making a bet about whether Tao Chen, who was in constant isolation, would appear to interfere. If that did not appear, then Su Ming would summon the fifth kill and slaughter his way out of morning Tao sect. Even though he would have wasted his identity as Tao Kong, he had methods to obtain a new identity. However, unless he absolutely had to, Su Ming was unwilling to do such a thing. The huge palm came towards him with loud booming sounds. At the instant it was about to touch him, a brilliant light filled with madness shone in Su Ming's eyes, and suddenly, a ray of golden light descended from the heavens, a place even higher than where the vortex was located. The golden light was so fast that its speed could not be put to words. The instant it appeared, it shot through the huge palm pressing down towards Su Ming. Amid the loud bangs that were stirred up, the palm crumbled and was disassembled without any resistance on its part. The golden light then stopped in front of Su Ming. It showed up to be a piece of paper. It was a very ordinary and common piece of rice paper. There was ink that had yet to dry on it. When dazzling golden light shone from it, a presence that made the sky, the earth, the entire morning Tao sect, and even the entire true morning Tao world tremble spread out without restraint. Dynast Tao Kong shall now act as the garrison of the fourth striking lands, and he shall be responsible for all those who come to challenge the land, a faint voice said from the rice paper, and a young man appeared next to it. Once he showed up, he wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed to Su Ming. As he spoke, the young man did not even bother to look at the vortex in the sky, but instead raised his right hand and swung it. Then, the rice paper immediately flew towards Su Ming. This is a gift from Lord Tao Chen to you, Your Highness. I shall take my leave now. As he spoke, the young man cast Su Ming a faint smile. In that smile was a profoundness Su Ming could not decipher. It was as if a great wave of sentiment had risen within the man. He turned around and stepped into the air where he disappeared without a trace. From the start till the moment he disappeared, he never looked at the vortex, treating it as if it was not even there. The area was covered by a dead silence. Everyone's expressions might have looked the same as before, but an astonishing storm had stirred up in their hearts, especially in that of old Bei Bang. His expression changed several times, and the three sect masters behind him also had bewilderment and shock on their faces. Stripping Tao Kong of his status as dynast and intending to banish him to Tao Ocean was the highest order from the Council of Sect Masters. The three ancient existences in the vortex were also incredibly illustrious people in the council. There were plenty of times when their words had decided everything within true morning Tao world. But that rice paper, its presence was enough to tell everyone that it came from the Kalpa Lord Tao Chen. Everyone also knew that the young man just then was the disciple responsible for acting as the guard at the entrance to progenitor Tao Chen's isolation grounds. He'd had that position for countless years, and was also the one who would usually deliver the progenitor's orders. He was the only disciple progenitor Dao Chen had accepted after all his disciples had suddenly died while he was in isolation. There was only one word to his name, Sang. The area was enveloped in dead silence. No one spoke. With a calm expression, Su Ming put away the rice paper into his storage bag. When he turned around, he stepped into the air and turned into a long arc that charged forward. He, too, did not cast a single glance at the vortex in the sky. At that moment, there was an almost oppressive silence coming from it. When Su Ming left into the distance, not a single sound came from the vortex. Instead, it distorted, and then just like that, it disappeared into thin air. This sort of quiet disappearance caused all the people to be able to sense the anger hidden in the silence. But no matter how angered they were, it was useless. This was the order given by progenitor Dao Chen himself, and it had the power to directly overrule the Council of Sect Masters' orders. Due to this matter, the people in the area had also shifted from being wary to not daring to provoke Su Ming recklessly. There were also some who immediately thought of the golden light appearing a few days ago in the first plane. The golden light that spread out from the blood-soul fusion test became the best explanation for what had happened just then. Is Dynast Dao Kong going to challenge the fifth striking lands? As Su Ming left into the distance, the 10 million cultivators behind him focused their gazes on him, and various speculations rose in their hearts. Soon, they obtained their answers. Su Ming did not head to the fifth striking lands. As he charged forward, he moved towards the spot used for the anointment ceremony. He might have appeared to be in good condition, but in truth, he had been injured under the attack of the light of extreme darkness, and half of the 2 hours had passed. More importantly, if the requirement to challenge the fourth striking lands was Mastery Realm, then Su Ming did not have too much confidence in regards to the fifth striking lands, which was why he decided to put it aside for the time being. When the chance arose, he would head there and see what it was about. As he charged forward, Su Ming returned to his lotus platform at the spot used for the anointment ceremony and sat down cross-legged. When he closed his eyes, he began healing his injuries. Gradually, after Su Ming returned, the crowd, too, came back from the fourth striking lands. In time, the other dynasts also returned. As the people in the area spoke to each other in whispers and the dynasts contemplated their surroundings with faces filled with complicated emotions and sullenness, the 2 hours break passed. Su Ming opened his eyes. Sect Master Bei Bang, please heal me, Su Ming said calmly and looked towards Bei Bang. Chapter 1080 Astonishment Arriving. When Su Ming's words were heard by the crowd, the area immediately fell silent. The 10 million cultivators around the platforms instantly looked towards Su Ming and Bei Bang. Bei Bang frowned, then said languidly, Dynast Dao Kong, since you were not injured during the challenges, you are not suffering from something that I am supposed to heal. Su Ming remained as calm as ever and did not continue speaking, but he put it to memory. He also remembered how that sect master Bei Bang had asked him whether he had understood what was going on previously, and also remembered the people who had mocked him the most in the area. He would naturally not let their actions slide. Old Bei Bang's expression was slightly sour. With a swing of his arm, he said in a low voice, the challenge continues. After a short period of silence, people began issuing challenges once more. However, the person they challenged was no longer Su Ming, but someone else. There were quite a number of people who did that, which resulted in a completely different scene to appear compared to the one earlier. No one came to challenge Su Ming. Instead, the number of challengers for the others increased. There were even a few challengers that came to Dao Lin and Dao Fa's lotus platforms. But besides Su Ming himself, not a single other person appeared on his platform. This scene lasted for about 1 hour, until the first challenger appeared in a flash on Su Ming's platform. It was a middle-aged man dressed in a sackcloth. His expression was incredibly solemn. At the instant he appeared, some of those in the crowd who were watching immediately recognized the man.
Dao Yun.
He came to challenge Dynast Dao Kong. He was forced to a stop at the 9th stage of the third striking lands, but he was previously known as the person who was most likely to clear the third striking lands. It's said that his power is fathomless. This is what is meant by a fight between powerful warriors. Looks like Dynast Dao Kong's challengers from now on will be only those who are famous people in Morning Dao sect. There were plenty of discussions in the surrounding area, while on the platform, the The middle-aged man wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed to Su Ming. I am Dao Yun. I did not come to challenge your right as a dynast, but only wish to exchange blows with you. Your Highness, please grant me your teachings. As he spoke, he had his cultivation base spread out. It was the power which belonged to those who were already half a step into Mastery Realm, a power that had already surpassed great completion of Solar Kalpa Realm. As his power spread out, a brilliant light shone in his eyes. When he lifted his right hand, a layer of dark clouds appeared above his head. Thunder roared, and the dark clouds twisted until they turned into a huge shield that moved to stand tall before him. When the middle-aged man took a step forward, the shield of clouds let out a bang and charged forward. Su Ming raised his right hand and swung it, causing a bang. Immediately, a large layer of falling rocks appeared out of nowhere in front of him. Booming sounds rose without end as those stones crashed against the incoming attack. The shield shuddered and was torn to pieces, changing back into clouds and fog. At that moment, purplish-black light suddenly appeared on the middle-aged man's face. He opened his mouth and sucked in a sharp breath. Immediately, the clouds and fog were sucked into his body through his eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. Then, even his eyes started shining with a purplish-black light. With his mouth wide open, he let out a loud roar that shocked the skies. Darkening clouds. As the middle-aged man roared, purple fog gushed out of his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. A large amount of it also burst out from the other parts of his body. His blood and essence were in that fog. After it condensed, it turned into a giant made of purple around the middle-aged man. That giant took a large step forward and charged towards Su Ming with loud bangs. After executing this divine ability, the middle-aged man looked as thin as a skeleton. Feebly, he sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. Dark light shone at the center of his brows, showing he was controlling the giant of fog through the distance to charge at Su Ming. The middle-aged man had yet to reach Mastery Realm, but the fog giant formed by the divine ability he executed exuded the power belonging to those in Mastery Realm. When it took a step forward, it instantly closed in on Su Ming and raised its right hand to push its palm against its target. The air was torn. A destructive power erupted from the palm of the fog giant as if it wanted to instantly destroy Su Ming's body and form. Su Ming remained calm. When the fog giant approached him, he raised his right hand and threw a punch at it. He did not use his cultivation base, but only the greatest force he could muster from his physical body. With a bang, the fog giant shuddered and collapsed. Fog tumbled backwards. The meditating middle-aged man coughed up a mouthful of blood, and his body was immediately seized by a phantom claw formed by the fog sweeping towards him. He then swiftly left the lotus platform. Thank you for sparing me, Your Highness. I, Dao Yun, will surely repay your kindness. If you open your own chamber, I will definitely join you. The thin middle-aged man's face was pale, but determination shone in his eyes, as if his fight against Su Ming had allowed him to understand something. At that moment, he bowed deeply towards Su Ming before leaving. After he left, Su Ming narrowed his eyes and suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. His face turned slightly pale before he cast an indifferent gaze at Bei Bang, who was beyond his platform and had an incredibly dark expression on his face at that moment. Su Ming might not have said anything, but most of the 10 million cultivators in the area immediately understood the meaning behind his actions. Bei Bang had refused to offer his life force to help cure his injuries with the excuse that Su Ming had not been injured during the challenges. But now, even though Su Ming's actions were clearly very fake, there was indeed blood, so it could be said that he had been injured during battle. After some time, with a dark expression on his face, Bei Bang let out a cold harumph and lifted his right foot to step on his own platform. Su Ming's platform was then immediately covered by a gentle white light. It blinked a few times, and Su Ming sensed a vast amount of life force surging into his body through the platform. His injuries recovered slightly, but only by the portion that he'd lost in the last fight. The gentle light did not cure any of his other injuries. Su Ming's expression was calm, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. His goal was very simple. The old man in Life Realm had been arrogant with his words before and had even mentioned that with his cultivation base he could offer endless healing. Then what Su Ming wanted to do next was to suck that old man dry. It's been a long time since I fought to my heart's content. A desire to fight shone in Su Ming's eyes as he waited quietly. He had not killed Dao Yun previously because he wanted the powerful warriors of Morning Dao sect who truly had the right to challenge him to come forth so that he could fight to his heart's content. After a moment, the weather above Su Ming's lotus platform changed, and a figure appeared in a flash. Kai Ling Wei, a Salu. I am at the initial stage of Mastery Realm. Your Highness, please grant me your teachings. As the freezing voice rang in the air, the figure gained the corporeal form of a young man. He had a lean figure and a straight back. He was dressed in a green robe, and when he stood still, he was like a pine tree. His eyes were like lightning itself, and his gaze was as sharp as blades when he looked towards Su Ming. His arrival immediately caused the 10 million cultivators in the area beyond to begin to buzz among themselves. At that moment, most of them were no longer paying any attention to the other dynasts. Instead, they cast all gazes on Su Ming's lotus platform. After all, compared to the others, it did not matter whether it was the challenger or the one being challenged. Su Ming was the one existence that shone the brightest and was the one that attracted the most attention. Kai Ling Wei, the strongest prodigy over the course of 10,000 years among the sailors. He successfully cleared the 3rd striking lands, but was forced to a halt at the 4th stage in the 4th striking lands. This person has always been cold. He poured every single bit of his heart and soul into training. He has already reached Mastery Realm, and even during the battle against the Immortals Union, he showed brilliant results. He is known as one of the 36 Almighties of this generation of 10,000 years in Morning Dao sect. It's said that he's ranked 13th in the Immortals Union. Just a little bit more, and he would be among the top 10. That's right, none of the dynasts, not even Dao Lin and Dao Fa were included in those ranks. Su Ming's eyes lit up. This was the first person among his challengers in Morning Dao sect who had stepped into Mastery Realm. By the looks of it, he should not have arrived in that realm long ago, but had only made his foundation stable. He had not yet reached the level of Flame Fiend's progenitor, but he was not too far from him when Kai Ling Wei finished speaking. A cold glare shone in his eyes. He looked up and formed a seal which he pointed at Su Ming's feet. Heavy. When he spoke, a powerful force bore down on Su Ming's body, as if a pair of invisible hands had shot out of the ground to seize his body to drag him down. Su Ming shook his head. Your power is still not great enough to challenge me, and you haven't come to challenge me. Whether or not you will understand this will depend on your luck. As Su Ming shook his head, he lifted his right hand and stomped on the ground. With it, the platform let out a loud bang, and the heavy weight instantly disintegrated. Kai Ling Wei shuddered, and a look as if he knew it was exactly what he had expected appeared in his eyes. He staggered a few steps backwards while his chi and blood surged. A feeling of numbness spread through him. I have learned from you. Your Highness, if you have any requests in the future, you only need to send word. A breath later, he recovered, and excitement appeared in his eyes. He wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed towards Su Ming deeply. He left the lotus platform without any hesitation and rushed into the distance. First, it was Dao Yun, and next was Kai Ling Wei. The two of them had come with goodwill and had shown the willingness to join Su Ming's chamber. Once those words were heard by the people outside, there was a loud buzz among the 10 million cultivators around the area. It was also during that moment that in the area beyond the 4 plains of Morning Dao sect, one of the 100-something relocation spots to enter Morning Dao sect, a long arc was traveling forth at an extreme speed. In that long arc was an old man. The mighty pressure spreading out from his body made it clear that he had already attained great completion in Solar Kalpa realm. At that moment, his face was pale, but there were no injuries on his body. However, there was a look in his eyes that made it clear that something had shocked and intimidated him so much that his heart was trembling. Needless to say, he was the person who was sent to the barren lands of divine essence by the tanned old man. He had returned, and he brought with him news regarding Su Ming that caused him to shudder. It was news about true sacred Yin world that would surely cause the entire Morning Dao sect to tremble. 1. Salu is only a surname and a short term for Bodhisattva, so it's a transliterate version for this race.